What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. Go over there and sign up for my newsletter to get free comics and also to never miss a video on comics. Today we are reviewing Archie Comics, the Deluxe Edition, Book 3. This is the hardcover series. I've been reviewing all of them. Got this in an Archie sale on archiecomics.com the other day. Nice hardcover. It's kind of soft in there, and standard size comic hardcover. This volume, much like the others, just goes through Archie over the years. It starts with a couple stories from the 40s, and actually I think the stories from the 40s were a little stronger than the first two volumes. You get Archie kind of having a competition over Veronica with some military guys. You get Archie and Jughead going on an adventure in the cold. You get Archie getting a monkey, and that's a very fun one. And it continues on along the lines like this. You get some good stuff. You go into the 50s. 50s get even better with the comics. I don't like the little Archie stuff as much as I like the other stuff in here. We got a nice Jughead story. This was extremely solid. What I like about this volume is it starts to get into some longer stories. The first volume really kept to stories that they're trying to keep it 8 pages or less, it seemed like. And Jughead tries to become a rock star here, realizes fame's not all it's cut out to be, and you see how long this story is. It keeps going. You get one where the gang goes undersea and this is an interesting one where they meet some underwater people and giant clams and things like that. So it's got a little supernatural element to it, which is unusual for most Archie stuff. This is in Life with Archie number 16. You can see that the scan on this one is not quite as good. The colorations are not as good as a lot of the later stuff. And it just depends on the quality of scan they had of these, apparently. Get into some Beatlemania, and Archie and the gang try to start their own band in this one. This one was very fun. We get a little Josie, get some Jughead again. And we're into the 60s now. Like I said, I just feel like these stories were a little stronger than a lot of the other stuff. I think overall, Volume 2 had the best stories, but the early on stuff in this was a lot better than the 40s and 50s stuff from the first and second volumes. We got a costume contest, all sorts of fun hijinks here. We get into the 80s, and again, we just have longer stories than before, so I like this. Betty's Diary, and we get a little Back to the Future deal. And so this starts a series called Jughead's Time Police, and Jughead ends up having kind of an alternate deal where he has a time police that he kind of works for at a time. Very fun one. Again, just a long form deal, so you get to really dial in on the characters in these a little bit more than those brief short stories in the first 3 volumes. So that made this kind of a nice change. Now this one here basically is a Scooby-Doo story, but it's Archie only Scooby-Doo. It was very odd to see that, but I mean they even used all of the same zoinks and all of that through here, so it was very, very strange. Now I know Archie Comics had the license for Scooby-Doo, so I'm not exactly sure why they did that. And there's a couple stories like that in here. We get to meet Cheryl Blossom in here. And she's basically got her own MTV show on this one. Here's another Scooby-Doo. See, they've even got the mystery van. These Archie mysteries, which are Scooby-Doo-ish, and Jughead ends up, being like Shaggy with the dog there. No idea why they did that, but it was actually a very fun story. I would read more of that. Then we get into the 2000s, and this is where it kind of falls off the rails. Like, I'm really not into this art style by Tanya Del Rio for Sabrina. I thought this was, it's like a manga-ish style, but not really, and it just doesn't work all that great. And it's a jarring change from the classic Archie House style other than this. And so didn't enjoy that as much. To close out, we're about to close out the volume. And we get a nice long-form Jughead 200 issue, which comes back to the house style again, which I appreciate. But you notice in the 2010s, they changed the whole panel formatting so that there's some full bleed stuff now. It's a little fancier than before, which, you know, sometimes works out, sometimes it doesn't. And we get a gender swap where the girls become boys and boys become girls with Sabrina on this one. And, you know, some funny stuff out of there. Again, I don't love the art as much as it gets into the 2010s. Now, from this point forward, and I would say the first two volumes had a little bit more of this, but when you get into the later stuff with 2018, 2019, 2016, anywhere in there, they give you partial stories at this point, and it just feels like the last chunk of the book is just advertisements for the new books, which is the Mark Waid Archie. And then there's actually, this looks pretty interesting back here. There's Archie 1941, which is a newer one Mark Waid did. And it actually sets Archie in 1941, but with modern comic style. So interesting stuff, but again, it's just 5 pages. And it's like, go check out issue 1. So these are all advertisements for the new books. But we get 350 pages of goodness. And if you can get it at a discount, very well worth it. Super fun. I would say, so far ranking these, there's 4 volumes of this so far. And I think number 1 is actually the weakest volume out of the 3 of them. This, because it's got long form, gets a little bit more interesting. Volume 2 is still my favorite, but I still really enjoyed this. I would call this an 8 out of 10 for a read. And there wasn't all that much back material in the back that felt like advertisements for the new books. So in $19.99, I got this 50% off, $10, 350 pages of goodness. You know, couple not so great stories in here, but most of it was very excellent. Can't complain for the cost there. Good stuff. I look forward to reading the 4th volume. I don't know if they're continuing these or not. I don't really see a lot about Archie's publishing plans on their website, so I don't know exactly how they do things, but these deluxe editions are kind of the best you're going to get in terms of, you know, a comprehensive read-through of Archie in a nice hardcover form. There are some Dark Horse archives of the older stuff, and there's some IDW Artist Series stuff. And I'll do kind of an overview of that at some point also. But enjoyable. Loved it, especially the older stuff in here. I'd say, you know, once it gets into the 90s and 2000s, not quite as fun. But actually, it wasn't all that bad, and I appreciated the long-form stuff in here again. So, have you read this? Let me know what you think. Hit that like and subscribe button. Happy to hear from you guys, and we will see you soon.